What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, this is where we talk about the news topics that happened in the scale world of RC over the past week. If you enjoyed the Scale News Update, hit the like button and let's jump into this week's topics. First for this week, a little bit more on the topic of pricing. We've talked about it several times over the last several months, and again, things continue to increase for brands in different ways across the market. Traxxas recently made a price adjustment to a lot of their vehicles. Almost all of the vehicles went up $30 to $40, some even more on the higher end of the product line. This isn't surprising. Some of those products have been the same price for a really long time. With all of the factors that we've discussed over the last several months, it wasn't surprising to see this update from Traxxas. And they're not alone in this. Arrma's prices have also gone up on several of their vehicles as well. And then HPI, who has recently started shipping some of the vehicles, some of their prices almost doubled on some of the Savage line. Some of the drift cars went up like $100. Huge jumps in prices for them. Granted, again, some of those cars had been priced that way from a long time ago. They just recently came out again and things have likely changed. So a price adjustment was more likely due to just the overall change in the market from the last time that they priced those compared to just the more recent changes in the market and supply chain. Watching the price trends in the market, something I would definitely want to continue to watch just to see how it affects different brands and how things continue to change, whether they're going to level off, go back down, or go up even more. Next, the big release from Axial was the new SCX 10.3 Early Bronco. This has a classic early Bronco style. This is a topless type design with a molded cage, some nice molded details in the interior, including going back to a molded seat design like we saw in the original Wraith. Also, a number of molded details in the interior that are very appropriate to the actual early Bronco design. Everything from the styling of the dash to the shifters to the top-mounted windshield wipers on that windshield frame. Another big point to the new Bronco release is that it is using the straight axles instead of portal axles. So a more appropriate style axle underneath of this model. Now we're seeing that Axial is offering both the portal and straight on the SCX 10.3 platform, giving you a bit more choice when you go shopping, just in case you're not in love with portals. The detail on the early Bronco body looks fantastic. It's being offered in two different colors. One, the teal style color, and then another in white with some red and blue accents on it. There's a spare tire in the rear that's easily removable if you don't want that style or don't want to carry around the extra weight. Tires are Falcons again, and it's got some slot mag style wheels with a knockoff center cap. It does use a 100mm shock, so has a pretty tall ride height overall, pretty decent sized gap between those tires and the fenders. The inner fenders are new compared to the Jeep style, as they are a little bit wider to fit that Bronco body rather than the pinched in Jeep JL body that we saw on the original release. And going back to our previous discussion on pricing, this new model is $579, which is significantly more expensive than the original SCX 10.3 release, which is only $499 for the RTR. The Jeep Gladiator was $519. So we see a pretty big jump for this new model. Now this new truck is highly detailed. It's got a cage and some nice interior details, but that Jeep JL also had an interior tray and a cage. Not a huge amount separating the two as far as that goes, and portal axles have more gears and things like that. So with arguably less parts, it is more expensive. So could be just a side effect of the pricing of things. Maybe they want to hold the price of the SCX 10.3 models they released previously at what they are, but they needed to adjust this one to match the current pricing. Either way, it's a great looking model, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to enjoy it. If you're interested in pre-ordering this, I've put links to where you can do that in the description below. Then we had a new release from Associated, and if you're just such a big fan of drag racing but find yourself a little tight on space, then maybe the DR28 is up your alley. 1/28 scale drag racing. This appears to be the same 1/28 scale platform that they've used previously with a number of different body styles and tires and wheels, but with a very DR10 style body put on top. And if you're wondering what kind of room you need for 1/28 scale drag racing, you need just over 47 feet to do the 1/28 scale quarter mile. And speaking of the Associated Electrics group, the Element Ecto is now available in stores just about everywhere. If you're not familiar with the Element Ecto, it is basically the Element Gatekeeper sans the cage and with a Lexan body put on top. Beyond that, 12.8-inch wheelbase underneath. It's got the trailing arm rear suspension, same Element axles that you've seen on all of the rest of the releases. Everything else just like you've seen it in the past. So if you're looking to pick that one up, it's $399. But if you're not interested in the entire Ecto and you just want the body, that is now available also. Or if you got the Ecto, but you just want something that isn't the yellow version of that body, then another reason to pick it up. Element Ecto body comes with the rear cage pieces, and it's at a pretty reasonable price at just over 40 bucks. Lexan prices have not been unaffected by price hikes recently, so $42 for a one-piece body with that rear roll bar, pretty decent deal. If you want something similar to that Power Wagon style, but don't want the exact same thing that's been used time and time again, here's an option. Next, Pitbull RC, the tire manufacturer, is now offering batteries. At Axial Fest this last weekend, they had these on display, the new Pitbull Pure Gold batteries. LiPo batteries in a gold casing, and they have a voltage level indicator incorporated into the wrapping. So you can kind of push a little button on the LiPo and kind of see a battery voltage. You know, a little bit easier than how you used to have to like really squeeze the battery to try and get the little bar to light up for you. Slightly different technology, but nonetheless, that is an interesting feature. The prices of these batteries reflect that extra feature a little bit as well. If you just really want to support Pitbull or don't have a battery checker or just for some reason love gold, these batteries could be right up your alley. Speaking of new batteries at Axial Fest, while I was there, I also saw Jennsey's new line of bashing batteries. And while that may not seem totally scale since it says bashing right in there, you could use these in your drag cars or infraction, felony, all of those that kind of find their way into the scale news here as well. They've got 3S, 4S, and 6S packs available. I actually picked up one of each of them while I was at Axial Fest because I've got cars that they'll go into. So why not? These new batteries may fit into that budget category you're looking for, so I'll link to all of the batteries that we just discussed in the description below. Then WPL, the D12, the K truck, key car, key truck, whatever you want to call it. The D12, that little model we've talked about a number of times, is now being made available in a kit version, and it's including a metal rear axle with metal gears, so a little bit of upgrades as well in the unassembled kit version. Talked about that thing in the past. It's actually a lot of fun for just a funny looking tiny little truck. But now you get to build it yourself. You can add the electronics in kind of a bundle deal if you want to just have, in the end, the same package. There's not a lot to these, so the build's going to go very quickly, but you get to build it yourself, which is something that I think a lot of us enjoy in this hobby. So if you've been thinking to pick one of these up and you've held off up to this point, here's an obvious time to jump in. Speaking of things we don't need, Tamiya is releasing the track kit that they released previously on that new Land Freeder. I'm kind of thinking, add this to that WPL assembly kit that we just talked about. You could have the ultimate useless vehicle. This could be a great combo, even if that WPL is two-wheel drive. Details. The Gmaid Buffalo is now being made available in a pickup version of the kit. The Gmaid Buffalo was released earlier this year and was released in two versions of like a K5 Blazer style. One was more military-esque and one was more civilian off-road style. But now you can pick this up with basically it looks like the same specs except with pickup style bodies. So if you liked what you saw with the Buffalo previously, now you can have that exact same thing, but with a different body. Last week, we talked about the teaser from Proline of the new Pinto body, and we got the details on that body shortly thereafter. It wasn't the wagon that I was hoping for. And in the end, it wasn't anything that I was expecting, as while this is made to be a no prep style body, it's made for the stock Bandit type wheelbase, which is like 11 inches. So significantly shorter than the short course style trucks that we've seen used up to this point. Basically, you're just going to take a Bandit or similar style buggy and drop this body on. So it won't be legal for normal no prep RC racing, but For a bunch of people that may have a car just laying around that they either didn't want to buy all of the pieces to convert, but they still want to play around, then they've got one body option now to do that with. I imagine this will be something that if Proline sees any popularity of, then they will hope that the no prep clubs will start offering a class for these to run in, and maybe see the popularity of another class specifically spark rules to define it. It's a bold choice as far as that approach goes, but at the same time, most people aren't going to sanction racing. Most people are racing in the street in front of their house or racing a friend, and sometimes they just want to play around. It doesn't really matter what the rules are. And as far as that goes, with the rules not mattering, a Pinto seems like the best choice possible. I did like that the license plate they chose for the photos says Blazin' Fast. Nice little reference put in there. I assume that would be on the sticker sheet that comes with the body. No matter what, it's fun to see the sense of humor of people making its way into products like that. And speaking of Proline, they released 2 new 1.55 wheels this last week. They've got one that's an all plastic design. These are called the Keystone, and they're just kind of like a D window stamped steel looking style wheel. It is a true beadlock wheel, but again, it's an all plastic design to the wheel. The second one that they released is a half aluminum. So the face is aluminum, and then the back side of the wheel is plastic. And these are a kind of a slot mag style wheel. And again, these are both 1.55 inch wheels, so made for the much smaller tires. I believe that Proline only makes one 155 tire option. I believe that's a TSL Swamper. Beyond that, you'll have to go to other brands like Pitbull or RC 4-wheel drive for 155 tire options. It's an area of the market that doesn't have a lot of wheel choices, so a couple of more for you guys that really love that tiny tire life. Last weekend was Axial Fest. It was a great weekend. I did 3 videos, one for each day of the event. You can go back and watch all of those and see the events and kind of things that went on, some views of the trails. If you weren't able to make it, something to show you kind of the experience of the event. Maybe it's something that you can think about making it to next year. I had a great time. Proline by the Fire, another event that's coming up that's definitely worth the trip. Similar style feel to it, although in a shortened schedule. This week we should be back to our regular live stream schedule. Wednesday live takeover with Matt and myself, and we're bringing a guest on, Richard, or pardon my noob, Turks and Jerps, the proprietor of Smiggin's Folly. However you know him, he's going to be joining us on the live stream takeover. So join in on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. We'll be talking about Axial Fest, all of the new releases, and a lot of things that are completely unrelated, I'm sure. So join us then. And then Friday Night Live should return this Friday as well. Plenty of things to work on. Hope to see you all then. But that does it for this week's news topics. For this week's question, summer is moving quickly. The fall will be here before we know it. It's another year that flies by before you know it. What is the one thing in RC that you want to get done this year? What have you been putting off or thinking you're going to try and get done? What's that one thing that you just want to accomplish so bad? Whether it's making it to some event, local, national. Is it buying one more truck or finishing a custom build that you've been working on for a long time? What is that one most important goal that you have for this year that you want to accomplish? That's going to do it for this week's Scale News Update. Hope you all have an awesome rest of the week. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the Scale News Update. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Quit creeping.
Are you
It's recording right now.
Do you want to give me your phone?
So out.
Tookie.
Get out.
How did you know I was creeping?
Because I could hear your loud. First for this week, a little bit more on the topic.